Fission Radio Show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance.
Good morning, UCY.TV
Love
radio.
Is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Thank you for joining us. Today is February 1st. We made it through January. We have on the line with us Barry Prince, who is the co-host of another show, the Pete O'Celli Show. And I want to thank you, Barry, for joining us. We were talking about Trump's cabinet positions the last time we were on the air, and we wanted to complete that conversation. Are you still with us?
I'm sitting here waiting to go.
Yay! So I'm glad.
Put me in, Coach.
Yay! So,
Pleasure to join you, Lonnie.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. Right before we were talking about kind of reviewing what we were going to talk about, you said something about how people think that Trump is a good guy. And I think that comes from the fact that you're in Canada. And I don't know what the news coverage is there, but where I'm at, Trump is not a revered person. I mean, most people where I live, seriously, even the Republicans who voted for him are beginning to get very nervous feet. They're getting buyer's remorse with the amount of, the idea of gutting our school systems, firing 460,000 teachers, gutting all of our EPA. I mean, as ineffective as the EPA is, to gut all of their regulations, we're going to have rivers on fire and children dying from being near ditches, et cetera, in this country. So we're bracing for the worst because it hasn't even started. We haven't even seen what he's doing yet.
A lot of interesting thoughts and theories going on around Trump. What he has done since he's come to power is he's done a lot of things he said he was going to do, but he's brought some things to the forefront that I have to say I totally disagree with, and that of course is gutting the EPA. Some of the other moves he's made. We talked the last time about his cabinet appointments, and really one only has to look at somebody who he has surrounded himself with. And that really speaks volumes for what his intentions are. And I'm going to go through the list real quick here. And anybody that's listening to this show today can go look this research up themselves. It took me less than an hour to really get to the bottom of who these people are and their connections prior to being appointed. I'll run through the list real quick, and then I'll get a few comments from you, Lonnie. But I believe Trump is a deceiver myself. I'm looking at him from outside the box. I do like a few things that he's done. Destroying the TTPP I think that was a very good thing for America. A few other things he's done I think are good, but he's doing extreme movements right now that I didn't really see him coming to the forefront and doing. But anyways, Paul Ryan is a member of the Trilateral Commission. He's also a member, he's been on the Council of Foreign Relations for years. Rex Tillerson, the exact same thing. Callaway Conway, she's a member, she's a council on national policy. Sarah Pollen, she's a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Steve Munson, Skull and Bones, Council of Foreign Relations, Goldman Sachs. Chris Christie is a high-level Freemason. Michael Flynn he's a member of the National Council of Defense and a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Sid Miller, he's a Freemason, high-level Freemason. John Bolter, he again is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Rudolph Giuliani, he's a high-level Freemason and Council of Foreign Relations. Newt Gingrich, same thing, high-level Freemason, Council of Foreign Relations. Wilbur Ross, same thing, he's a high-level Freemason. So you have this gentleman saying one thing on one side of his mouth, but really all you have to do is look at who he's surrounded himself with and who these people actually are. To get an idea of what he's all about. One of the things that really bothers me about this whole scenario right now is all these alternative media stations that have been promoting Trump for the last year and a half, i.e. Alex Jones. Well, their reporters could do the same research that I've done and come up with the same results and the same conclusions in an hour, yet we never hear from people like Alex Jones about his cabinet background. So those are a few thoughts I wanted to share with you today.
Wow, that is actually stunning. I'm not actually surprised. I mean,
Just do it. Go look it up, Lonnie.
This is really the issue. Is it really highlights is that the democracy is dead. It's like I said yesterday on the radio. We have had a silent military coup. If our Senate decided to stop the funding to the unlimited CIA funding or cut back on the military stuff, you know how many congressmen and how many senators would have accidents or be suicided, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's super sad what our country, how blind people are. This is the thing. People actually believe that they voted for Trump and they elected Trump. Trump was not elected. He was placed. I mean, and we wouldn't be happy with Clinton either, to be frank. There's no good resolve in where our country's at right now, economically or any of it. The path that we have has all been based on what we call alternative facts, right? So this is why it's been in a way, this thing with Trump. The good part about Trump is it's out in the open. Like they're telling the Pope, the White House no longer has a message where you can call up and leave the president your thoughts and things. The message at the White House now says, thank you for calling the White House. Please go to whitehouse.gov or send us a Facebook message. We've been directed by, whose side do you think Facebook is on when the White House tells us to send them a messenger Facebook message? I mean, for real. Doing, doing, doing. It ain't on our side, folks. Let's just get real. I mean,
a little bit too much fluoride in the water, Lonnie.
Well, you know what? Actually, that's another. Oh, please! All the chemicals, I've actually had people argue with me that adding the chemicals in the water is actually a good thing, so that we can learn how to deal with the new world. The world is. I actually heard that the New World Order. Somebody on CNN literally said the progressives in this country have to get used to the New World Order. It's here. He said that on the radio. I was like, I mean, on the television, on CNN. I'm like, wow, man, it is blatant. I mean, they are clicking their heels and saying Sig Heil, and frankly, we haven't even seen the military that they've rolled out. I mean, they are going to be pouring money into militarized police. People think that the cops are bad now. Wait for 3 years. It's not going to be a pretty place where America lives anymore. And frankly, it hasn't been. I mean, we've rolled across the entire continent, murder, death, kill. That's been the method here. Mm-hmm. So it would be a new concept if we thought about living in peace and in harmony.
Well, as long as you have a two-party system in America, things will never change. You got the puppet on the right and the puppet on the left. And I agree with you, Lonnie. Trump was selected for this position. He came out of nowhere, got all the charisma, saying all the right things. And, in his election campaign, he did have a lot of Americans going, yeah, this guy's going to change everything. And really, I think we're being set up. I really feel that because down the road, we will see what Trump does. And really, like I said earlier, you really have to look at who he has surrounded himself with, the generals that he's put in power. All these people that he's connected to are all tied to New World Order agenda. So he's saying one thing and surrounding himself with people that say the opposite. So we're really going to have to watch this guy and keep his feet to the coals. I think you're going to see some major changes in America, and most of them aren't going to be for the good.
I think actually, after watching what's happened in the last 2 weeks, Barry, I think Trump is being set up. I'm beginning to get this pattern of him believing a bunch of alternative facts and really believing it. I think they're setting him up to either implement the 25th Amendment so Mike Pence can just be installed, or helping him, keeping him financially engaged so that he can be impeached. I mean, he is being sued. We are going to see his tax returns. They are coming out. I mean, it is going to happen. And at that point, I think we're going to find out that he's not as rich as he says, and he does have financial investments that he has not divested himself from. So there's a lot. There's a lot that he actually has, I think he's just dumber than dirt. You want my opinion? I don't think he's a big intellect. I think he needed his daughter to help guide him and tell him what was reasonable, what's reasonable. I think he's like a lost little sheep right now. He's on this big power kick where he's in the White House, but the shine is gonna wear off relatively soon. And if they don't set him up, I think he's actually going to quit. I think he's not going to, I think he's going to say, this is just not it. I'm not happy. I'm going to go back to making money because that's really where I'm at. I'm not a lifetime career politician. I've set you guys all up with the right cabinet. Merry Christmas. I'm out of here. I mean,
that's quite a thought, but makes a lot of sense. That thought process never went through my head, but yeah, that might be. They're capable of doing just about anything, so maybe that is part of the scenario coming down the road. We don't know, but interesting thought, Lonnie.
Well, we do have to brace ourselves for it. I mean, and this is the interesting part. Someone called me up last night, all freaked out. A woman that I know up in Portland or Vancouver. She was a Trump. She's about 47, single woman, Trump supporter, mostly because she just hated Hillary Clinton more than anything else. And yesterday, her and I think she said 5 or 6 of her friends who were pro-Trump supporters had gotten sort of stalked on Facebook, and she was all freaked out. It was the first time they could figure out that they had all been, systematically stalked through some Facebook thing. And I'm like, girl, get used to it. Like we're living in the United States of America now, where we can spy on everyone and the whole point is to make us all feel afraid. When we don't feel afraid is when they get nervous. And that's the issue, is like, this is why in my intro, I say love is greater than fear, because we really do need to understand that their political power is super weak. I mean, they might have military force, but even military force is still super weak in the face of what we have if we have integrity and clarity and love. I mean, we can stand up to anything and transform what they're planning on doing to us into something for the greater good. Now, the question is, how do we do that with a world full of contaminants? I mean, we're getting through this culture shock of realizing that there's radioactivity everywhere. I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, there is so much radioactivity in this country, so much contaminants. Our planet is poisonous now. It's just a matter of time. How long can we live if we do not create these solutions? And we've had solutions, but they're being suppressed by the greedy bastards who want to run the world. So, I don't know.
Well, absolutely, boy. I've got 2 peer-reviewed studies now from scientists in Japan that actually planted industrial hemp on highly radiated soil, and in 2 years, we're looking for solutions, guys. There is one out there, and it's called the hemp plant, and I get talking about it all the time because it absolutely inspires me to know that there's an answer out there that could solve literally 80% of our problems on the planet today if we implement it right away. These studies are peer-reviewed studies, and I'll send you the links. You're probably aware of this anyways, Lonnie, but so the high vibration of the cannabis plant attacks and kills nuclear isotopes in the soil. After 2 years, they only found 2% of the original contaminants that were in the soil after 2 years. So, we got the whole planet being radiated right now. Our food's being radiated, our soil's being radiated. We can't avoid it because it's going through our food systems. All we have to do, guys, is plant industrial hemp all over the world. And then that soil's going to be clean. And then the following year, after you detoxify the soil of all the nuclear isotopes, you plant conventional crops on it, non-GMO.
Well, the hard part with that, Barry, is that we can't. I mean, Fukushima is still going on. Sellafield is still going on.
I know. So we have to cover the soil.
We're going to need to constantly be doing this. And Knief is the cousin. I mean, we had Scott from St. Louis who he was thinking about starting a business out there. Him and his friend had designed a very unique plan of planting Canif, which is the legal cousin of cannabis, because cannabis is illegal in Missouri, right? And they had planned on putting this thing together and then putting it in 4 backyards, electromagneting like the dirt so that it would go faster to the Canif plant, taking it out, putting it in these little containers, and using that as a source of energy for the houses. And then he got so much feedback. This is why he stopped being on my show. He got so much feedback about people in the community saying, you're going to create a terrorist event because now you're going to have all these nuclear radioisotopes that anybody could rob. So he completely kiboshed the idea. Now he's focusing his efforts on communities in Africa. So he'll probably go into Africa where he can be, there's a lot of uranium poisoning in Africa. So he'll be going there because there's a lot less regulation, a lot less people freaking out. So,
I don't have the exact chemical breakdown, but all nuclear waste that we're producing right now can be turned into energy. And I'm going to have to get a gentleman on your show here. He really breaks it down. But all the nuclear waste coming out of nuclear power plants actually can be turned into energy. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, Lonnie, but rationale tells you that this nuclear waste has potential energy. All we have to do is figure out how to harness it. We could literally take all the nuclear waste that's on the planet right now and turn it into energy. I honestly believe that technology exists, but it's being held back. What we talked about the hemp plant, sure, it's going to have to be done on an ongoing basis, and maybe we'll even have to make large greenhouses so the soil doesn't continue to get contaminated while we're detoxifying. And then in a couple years, we have access to really good soil that we can grow good food on that's not going to harm our bodies. But, when we talk about solutions, folks, there's so many of them out there. I mean, there's people right now working on fusion generators and static electric generators. I mean, we have so much energy in the air around us. If we can learn to harness it, our power problems are finished. You can take, I don't know if you ever heard of an earth battery before. Have you ever heard of an earth battery, Lonnie?
Mm-hmm. I have,
well,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, originally these guys were just putting 4 poles in the ground and setting up a configuration before and running into a capacitor in the house. And, they're getting 40 or 50 or I think it's 40 or 50 watts of electricity. But now they're building configurations of 10 or 15 of these poles, and they're pulling 120, 130 watts out of the ground continuously, 365 days a year, 7. It just never stops. And we have people now building antennas to harness static electricity out of the air. I mean, the power in a lightning bolt, if we could ever learn, and we have the technology, I believe, to do this, to harness the power of lightning strikes and set up retaining systems in areas of the world that get lightning 24/7. I mean, there's places on this planet that always have lightning. We could harness that energy and all our power requirements would be met. It's the answers are really out there. They are, but it's going to be pushed back so hard by the establishment because they do not want us to be self-sufficient. They do not want things that are going to be good to the environment. As crazy as that sounds, but that's really what they're all about. It's just getting knowledge out there and getting people involved and taking a look at some of this stuff, and then holy smokes, they get inspired. They go, well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Everything about it makes sense. Everything they're doing right now is killing our planet. And our planet's dying very, very quickly. And that's not me saying that. That's scientists all around the world right now that are screaming at the top of their lungs that if we don't make changes, there ain't going to be life on this planet. And as many as some say 15 to 20 years at the rate of die-off right now, we see happening right in front of our eyes. I mean, folks, you just got to go to the World Wildlife Federation stats and look at what's happened to the mammals on this planet since 1970. And I say this to people, you have to go look at this yourself, because when you really think about it, it's shocking that we've lost 52% of the mammals that walked on this planet in 1970 are now gone. And if we look at 15, 20 years down the road at the rate of acceleration of die-off of mammals, we're looking at a very, very bleak future in the very near future. So we really have to address these issues. And we do have the answers, Lonnie. I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's just getting people knowledgeable and making people realize that if we don't make these changes now, really, if we don't make them now, then we're going to have to look at our children in 15 years and say, yeah, we knew about this, but we didn't do anything about it, as they're starving to death or dying. And that sounds extreme, but it's the way I see things. Okay, go ahead.
People can go to, it's really easy. Just type in Mass Animal Deaths 2017. There's like this Christian holy roller lady who has a really awesome site. She gathers up stories from all around and posts them every single day. There's a link. But what we're dealing with is the blatant lies of the alternative facts of the nuclear industry. There's a story out in the Tri-Cities, which is right next to Hanford. It's called the Tri-Cities, right? They call them the Tri-Cities. They said there's a recent outbreak of avian cholera has killed 500 birds. Now, 500 birds in the Tri-City, right on the golf course of Kennewick, where we know they are leaking nuclear pollution. You notice none of these deaths, like the in Florida, in Sarasota, which is right down the road from the nuclear power plant at Turkey Point off of the coast, hundreds of dead fish are beaching up once again. The story's once again, they're calling it a red tide. It is never because of nuclear pollution. They never mention nuclear pollution as a cause of the deaths of the animals and the birds. I firmly, after looking at this for almost 4 years now, I firmly believe that nuclear pollution is one of the primary causes of global climate change, that it has really set off I think that's why they're doing the chemtrailing. When we think that they've been pouring nuclear contaminants at massive rates into our atmosphere for 70 years, and they do nothing but deny the harm it causes. It's exponential. That's the problem with nuclear pollution, is it's exponential. It grows and grows and grows. It's not like oil will sit there and eventually break up and become dirt again. Nuclear contamination is beyond comprehension for most Americans. In fact, after 4 years, I'm just barely beginning to get how it works. This is why people who have paid attention to Fukushima, and really citizen scientists like you, like myself, we're still super freaked out. We can't get over that it's being ignored by the so-called scientists. I mean, it's beyond comprehension. It's murder, death, kill at its best.
By their own admission now in Japan, by their own admission, Fukushima is dumping approximately 300 tons of highly radiated water into the ocean every day of the week, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Works out to about 780,000 tons of radiated water being dumped into the Pacific since 2011. And if people don't think that kind of contamination is going to not have an effect on the ocean, then you really do have your head in the sand. And a lot of people do, because it's not being exposed on mainstream. It is not being talked about. And yet this should be the primary discussion on everybody's dinner plate now.
Yeah.
So
well,
sad,
like all these really people in America coming out about Trump's ban, what really made me mad about these protests about Trump's ban on the people coming into our country is I did not see them protesting when Obama started bombing Syria. I mean, Syria used to be a thriving nation. The reason it's turned into chaos is directly because of the United States. Directly. And there was nothing going on there. And it's only because we're impending people coming into our country, but it has nothing to do with the fact. It's kind of like my attitude about the anti-choice people. They're just pro-birth. They are not pro-life. They are only pro-birth, because they don't care about what happens after the child's birth. They just want that child born. And it's incomprehensible, the disconnect that the American public has about all these different things. And their attitude is that they're right at all costs. They're always right, no matter what. Their position is right. There's no give and take. It's always, and this is where the name calling happens, Barry. This is why we're in this super pickle going on in our country, because Americans refuse to be gracious. I mean, we hear our senators saying, my friend on the other side. And I'm like, dude, those guys are not our friends. I mean, Jeff Sessions is not our friend. Jeff Sessions is a racist, bigoted, misogynistic jerk. I mean, who has shown his true colors every chance he gets to exercise his power. He has. It's beyond comprehension that we have a Congress who is afraid of our military. They're refusing to stand up to them. I mean, we have a country that is out of control because people live in fear. They're not willing. This is the interesting thing about people taking to the streets, Barry, about all these things. I mean, Americans are feeling emboldened about going out to the streets, and we're not going to take it, and we're going to stand up to them. Really? What are you going to do about it as they rubber stamp all of these fascists that Trump wants? I mean, literally, Betsy DeVos literally wants to gut the Department of Education. Literally. Rick Perry wants to gut the Department of Energy. The EPA is going to be gutted. They're going to do away with all the regulations. I mean, instead of improving one simple thing that would work perfectly, that would get things back on track, would be to make lobbying illegal in the United States. Period. All lobbyists have to go away. Then they'd have to really, really, we have, what is it, 32 lobbyists for every single congressman and senator in Washington, D.C. At our state levels, we have 6 to 7 lobbyists for every single representative at the state level. So they're constantly being visited all day long by people who try to talk them into doing stuff they don't really want to do. They know their constituents don't want to do it. They also know it's not very good for the country, but they're being told if they don't do it, they're not going, they're going to be attacked when they try to run for. I mean, look at my own Congressman Pete DeFazio. The Republicans have been attempting to seat Art Robinson, who believes every single person should be taking radioactive contamination into their body on a daily basis so we get acclimated to it. They spent $32 million in my tiny little district here trying to beat Pete DeFazio in the last election. $32 million in our little one district. That's a lot of beans on one congressman. This is the monsters we're up against.
Well, I'll tell you, Lonnie, as bad as it is down there, I'd trade you Trump for Trudeau any day of the week. Because right now what's going on in Canada is just a mirror of what's going on down there, but we're accelerating the rate. It's unbelievable what's going on in my country right now.
Well, I have to say, as an American, I'm a real American. I know very little about him except when I see him, he kind of reminds me of an Obama because he's a pretty face. People are naturally attracted to him. He's an insider who has his way in, which means he's going to rubber stamp whatever they tell him to do. And he's going to sell. His job is to sell it to the people and make it, he's going to sell shit sandwiches and make you think that it's, a vegan sandwich. Oh, it's really good for you.
Well, I won't talk about Canadian politics. I won't talk about Canadian politics, but I will tell you something that's going on right now in our country is an all-out, unbelievable attack on free speech. The Canadian government right now has, it's unbelievable what's going on. They are going to try and literally shut down free speech in Canada. And it's got the Canadian people right now to a point where our blood is boiling. I did a show the other night on Trudeau, and I'll tell you, it was just unbelievable how many people now in Canada are going, we got to take this guy out and hang him because he's a treasonous bastard. Excuse my language. That's the only way I can explain him. And this attack on free speech is going to go up in front of our parliament. If it passes, you'll see an uproar in Canada like you've never seen before in this country, Lonnie. I honestly mean that. People are pissed in Canada. But that's all I'm going to say about Trudeau today.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is the
I'm going to do another show about him.
We're kind of twin sisters on the Canadian thing. So what goes on in Canada is very much reflected in the United States. Trump is going to be doing exactly the same thing here. In fact, why do you think Kellyanne Conway said, we're not talking to CNN anymore? Bannon said the press needs to shut up. I mean, the whole thing, the reason they don't want free speech is because they know that people understand they have power when they can talk. I mean, when people communicate and get through the issues, what they want us all to do is just take whatever we're being dished out, be grateful little serfs, and shut up. Sit down and shut up. That's what they want us to do.
Well, of course, they keep us entertained. They keep us distracted. Don't look over here. Everything's fine. Go drink your beer. Watch your hockey game. American Idol is after that. Everything's fine, guys. Go to work. Pay your taxes. Just don't look over here because we got it under control. But society's going, wait a second, hold on. There's some stuff going over there we want to know about, and we see that more and more. We do see a major awakening in society right now. In my own community, I see it, Lonnie, and a lot of it's very, very inspiring. I'm only going to talk about this for about a minute, but I was a little late actually watch the movie Vaxxed. And all I can say to people is that everybody in this world, and this is what Robert De Niro stated on national TV, is that everybody in this world needs to see this movie. I've shared it with about 12 people in my community. We're going to air it on our theater here in 3 weeks. We've rented the theater, and I've got some naturopath doctors behind me, and we're going to air it locally, and we're going to put it in the paper, and we're going to charge $2 to come in and see the movie just to pay the cost of the theater. And we're also doing it in a little town called Kitimat, which is about 60 miles from where I live now. It's also going to be aired in the theater up there in the next 3 weeks. This movie alone, guys, will just knock people right off their feet because it actually makes them aware that this information being presented to them is true and it's accurate, and it just will make your blood boil. So
Well, it's kind
everybody's
of
got to
like
watch
that
that movie.
movie, The Safe Side of the Fence, right, about St. Louis. It's like, so, like, you just, like, really, the people in St. Louis started to get a clue that maybe something wasn't right when they were sitting at a picnic bench. This guy was sitting at a picnic bench, and right next to the chain link fence on the other side of the fence were these people in full nuclear gear, protective gear, sitting in there working on this dump site that's on fire in St. Louis. And when they asked the company about it, they said, "Oh, well, you're on the safe side of the fence." Literally, they said that you're on the safe side of the fence. So this, and right now, the City Council of St. Louis, the state
Excuse me.
legislature of St. Louis, and the United States government are refusing to remediate or even move the families that are living right next door to a nuclear burning dump site. Right next to it, they are forcing people to live in nuclear contamination. And nobody, you don't even hear a word. They have the audacity. In fact, I think they're having a symposium this week or this next week on nuclear safety in St. Louis. We actually had our presidential debate in St. Louis, and none of the people who went there to try to get a question in about St. Louis were allowed to ask a question. So the totalitarianism is 100% complete. What we're missing is the police presence on the street. And believe me, that's coming. That is coming. The only thing that keeps it from coming is this voice. When you say that Trudeau's trying to shut down the freedom of speech, that's the hallmark of it. And as long as people refuse to sit down and shut up, we can maintain some semblance of, I don't know if we can call this democracy, but something.
Well, yeah, imagine, the whole thing about this act in front of our parliament will instill fear in people to speak against something that is very obvious and blatantly in front of our eyes. If they're going to restrict us from talking on that, what's going to be next? We're not.
Are you there, Barry? Barry, are you there? Oh dear. I think we lost Barry. Right in the middle of his sentence. Wow. So maybe I'll have to call him back. I'll give him a minute to see if he shows up. Maybe he hit the mute button. Well, doggone it. Well, let me give him a call right back. Yeah, let me give him a call right back. Hold on. I guess he was talking too much about the Queen and her little bit of a land. That's what happens. This is the reason I'll never go into Canada. Oh, the call failed. Well, for goodness sakes, let's try it again. Hold on just 1 second, folks. Thanks for your patience. This is what happens when we're doing live radio in the morning. Good thing we got our first before the first cup, huh?
Did you lose me there?
We did lose you. You were mid-sentence, and then boom. I guess you were talking about the, her.
Oh no, I thought I was still there, and all of a sudden you're ringing me again. So don't feel bad. Well, the guys over, maybe I said something they didn't like to hear. Of course, you should always start your shows every day, Lonnie, with a hello and a big welcome to the CIA and FBI and NSA and all the other agencies that are listening to the show. I always start my show with that welcome because we know they're listening to us right now. And you know what? Maybe some of the things we say today might actually resonate in their heart and make a little sense to them. So welcome to the show, guys. Go ahead, Lonnie.
Yeah, well, I think we should just tell them all to fuck off. That's what I think.
Well, but they are listening, Lonnie. So we gotta be.
I know. Well, this is the issue.
I want to tell them what I think too. But you know what? Maybe we might turn on a light in their brain. You never know.
That's right.
It's not beyond the realm of possibilities, right?
We might get a million Snowdens going on. I mean, 500,000 Snowdens going on. You know what I mean? Like that. Wouldn't that be awesome if they all just said, no, we're not going to be doing it? I mean, this is the thing, though. We have a nation. They build these systems. So this is an example of how insidious it is. My grandson works for a company. He's kind of a computer person. He went to school to do computers, and he puts together computers. His company got a contract from some super secret thing where they were loading in phone boxes with cameras. That was their job for about 3 months. So they got this contract to load up cameras, and he came back. He's like, we're doing stuff. He goes, I can't even tell you what we're doing. He goes, but let's put it to you this way: it's to spy on neighborhoods. I'm
Yep.
like, and you were working there, like to me. But it's only for him. He needed his job. It was a temporary job that the company did. I mean, people justify doing wrong things. I mean, I guess I've had I help people with tax problems. So I have a lot. I've been accosted here in Eugene by every April 15th. There's these people that set up in front of the post office and accost people for filing their taxes and paying their taxes. And I have personally been quite demeaned publicly by people in public telling me that I'm helping the man, but it's like I said yesterday, I actually believe in paying our taxes. I think we just need to lean into the system and make it what it could be. It's like having a kid, right? When you have a baby, you can be a shitty parent or you can be a good parent. If you lean into the job, your children grow up happy and feeling loved. If you do kind of a half-assed job, your kids flail, they don't quite know what they're doing. I mean, we must be our own best parents. We have got to grow up in this planet and just take responsibility. I mean, and this is the sad part. This is why people like Trump. He's doing what he said he's going to do. He's going to build that wall, regardless of who pays for it and how effective it. I mean, like Vicente Fox said, we already have a wall that covers 70% of the border between Mexico and the United States. It's already there. So Trump is touting himself for doing the ACA, the Health Care Act. He signed a statement that said, we're not going to enforce on the penalties. None of the penalties are going to be enforced. Well, guess what? That's already in the law. There is no mechanism for enforcement. So the easy picking fruit, the low hanging fruit, he's already done all that. The Muslim ban, I mean, a lot of the Muslim ban, people didn't realize this, but it was already in place except for Syria.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing he did, what he's done is intimidate people. This is the worst part, is he's making people afraid to speak out. He's doing the Big Brother act. People are afraid of him now.
Yeah, well, he's interacting directly with the public through Twitter, which is really a hallmark of a fascist setup in a government, where the president actually bypasses the media to communicate with the people. And we see that being done by this president. We've never seen that done by any president before.
Hey, leave him a message on Facebook Messenger. He'd love to hear from you, Barry.
Yeah. Great. When do I get to talk to a real person, or do I?
You don't. Thank you very much. Now that we have your IP address, we know how to find you exactly.
Well, they've been putting cameras in TVs for years. That's been proven, and it's undeniable now that they actually can spy on you in your living room when you're sitting there and the TV's off. I mean, when I first read these reports, and I vetted those reports really hard to make sure they were true, and apparently they're 100% accurate, that they've been putting cameras in our TVs so they can actually sit and watch you in your living room. Well, that's pretty cool, eh? If that's true, that's just one of the things they're doing. I mean, we don't have freedom in our society anymore in any shape or form. Everything we're doing, all our thoughts, all our communications are being monitored right now. They have fusion centers set up all over the United States. I believe there's 7 of them set up in the United States of America. Most people don't even know what a fusion center is, but it's just a mass collection of data. The one in Oklahoma, I think it is, just a huge complex. They constructed that in the last 6 years. Everything we're doing, every activity, our thoughts. I mean, we're at a point right now, they know how many pieces of toilet paper you use when you take a shit and whether you paid your taxes on it, Lonnie.
Well, they keep track of you through those little cards. Those little discount cards at the store, they know exactly what you're buying. They say, I mean, the whole thing is just such a shakeup. Even this idea that we actually have terrorists, that's just such a fucking it really burns me. The terrorists are being fed by the United States military, by the CIA. They're being funded and trained by the CIA. We have proof of it. Yeah. They're being protected. Why didn't our government bomb that big long train of ISIS going through the desert with all those trucks in it? And the reason it came out was because there was a CIA operative within them. So, look. It's about the only product that we have on this planet is war right now. War. That's why they want the nuclear power plants, because they produce a product that produces weapons.
Yep.
And it's just that's all it's about is war. We have a war machine that is eating its own arms off. And frankly, when people say, well, we're going to topple it, it's going to topple itself. So what we need to do is prepare and be ready for the collapse because it's coming. As we said, the mass animal deaths, when there's no more animals washing up on shore, that's when we need to get afraid. I mean, that's really the scary part because when there's no more animals dying, that means there's no more animals in the ocean. Right now, we still have animals in the ocean. A lot of people give Kevin Blanch a hard time because he's like flailing his arms all the time, like, oh my God, there's no fish left in the ocean. Well, there's fish, but they are seriously going down. I mean, the fish count, I mean, and yet I've spoken to Native Americans, they revere the salmon as a holy fish, right, as part of their heritage. Well, where were they as the planet was filling our waters with uranium? There's 15,000 abandoned uranium mines in the United States, mostly on Native American lands. So they're standing up for the water protectors because they don't want this one pipeline or these 5 pipelines or these 6 pipelines. But what about the depleted uranium? What about the uranium? I mean, the disconnect between what people will actually talk about and protest about is, they look at me like I'm some radicalized, like, some conspiracy theorists. Well, uranium really does harm people. It really does harm people. Hello?
Well, really, and what you said earlier, Lonnie, about weapons production out of nuclear power plants, nuclear power plants were never put on this planet to produce power, guys, and that's a fact. If you do the history research, I know Lonnie has, they were made to produce weapons-grade plutonium for the military-industrial complex, and that's a fact. But it was sold to the public as the new clean energy source for the future. Well, what are we, 60, 70 years now since nuclear power was brought onto this planet, and what do we see now? We see our planet dying, and boy, if the human race doesn't wake up to this, Lonnie, it's I don't like to be even thinking myself as a fearmonger, but I really look at this whole picture very, very close. And if we don't get rid of nuclear power off this planet, I believe it'll come to the point where it will cause extinction of life as we know it now. Life might mutate and adapt to nuclear isotope. Maybe we'll have 3 eyes or 4 hands, but that's a place I don't want to go. But what we see right now is solutions, Lonnie. We really do. And as people become more and more aware of what we're talking about, and I praise you for what you do because your heart is in this 1,000%. We need a lot more people like you out there screaming right now because people are still asleep. And the problem is that when
I don't
people
think they're
really
asleep,
do become,
Barry.
I think a lot of people are still
I want to
asleep.
change that narrative.
Okay,
They're not asleep.
I'm not saying, Lonnie. Realistically, you have to be asleep because if you were fully aware of what we're talking about as a general population, wouldn't you be screaming?
No,
I'm not saying there's.
They're
Well,
battered wives. They're
maybe.
suffering from battered wife syndrome. They feel like there's nowhere to go. There's no battered culture center to go to. There's nothing they can do. They feel like, okay, I mean, if you've ever, I mean, this has to speak. Maybe this is why people keep saying they're asleep because the people talking about it are men. Most men have not been in a situation where they are battered. But many women, there's a pandemic of battery against women. And women who stay in these abusive relationships do it because they speak out and then what? The guy will be nice to him, then they get the shit kicked out of them 3 days later. So people are not saying anything because they're afraid if they speak out, then things are going to get worse. They're okay, as long as we just keep it like this, maybe they won't be so bad. That's what they're hoping for.
Well, we better break that stigma then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do need to break the stigma. And the only way we can do it is talk about it. That's really the issue, is gently remind people that they have power. Because people do have power.
To me, Lonnie, is like, this information's out there, and yet a majority of the population, a lot of us are aware. A lot of people are. I'm not saying that we're all asleep, but a majority of the population still hasn't got a clue, really, of the implications of what we're talking about right now. They really don't, because they still rely on the mainstream. They're still living in their little bubble, and they think that things are going to be okay. There is a population like that out there, and we got to get those people aware, because really, when you start to look at what we're talking about, the implications for the human race, if that doesn't get people right to the core, then they're past the point of being able to be reached. But I don't believe people are. It's just getting people aware of what we're talking about and the seriousness of what we're talking about without putting fear in their heart, because fear is their weapon. It's not what I want to use. I talk to people and say, well, this is the reality of the world we're living in. But in the same mouthful, guys, we have the solutions, but we must implement them not 20 years from now, not 10 years from now, but in the next couple of years. We have to see a catastrophic change in what we're doing to this planet, because like we talked about, the mammals are dying, Lonnie, and that's part of the food chain. Well, eventually you take enough pieces out of that food chain and you'll see the collapse of the food chain. That's inevitable. And when that happens, people are going to go, wow, well, what are we going to do now? Well, then it's going to be too late. But I still believe right now we have a window of opportunity to address these issues, but we have to reach people. And that's why I'm glad to sit here and share thoughts with you. And like I said, people like you are doing great things, Lonnie. You know, we need more of you. We need 1,000 Lonnies. We need 1,000 of these guys and that are really hitting on the hardcore truths. Go ahead.
The question is, how do we get the people who have the purse strings to actually activate this and stop being afraid of the industrial military complex, right? Because really, they're the ones with the money. They're the ones
But one voice is one voice. But if you have a million voices screaming at the top of their lungs, and those voices are being heard by their neighbors and their friends, you'll see them listen to us. If not, you're going to see a state of civil war, because as more people become aware that the government is so corrupt, they're so criminally responsible for what they're doing to this planet, they know what they're doing, they don't give a damn, and that has got to be brought out, that they're criminally responsible for what they're doing to this planet. It's just getting people aware and getting their hearts into this, Lonnie, because I look at my grandchildren and my children, I go, holy shit, what's coming for these guys? What kind of a pile of crap are we leaving? Just a pile so big I can't even see the top. So now we got to address it now. We got, as responsible people, guardians of this planet, people that love our children, we got to address this now and get people aware. That's all. So I'm glad to be here with you.
Me too. And that's one of the reasons why I go to this mass animal deaths on this page. I'm really grateful this woman is doing this page. I mean, you know, she lists the mass bee deaths, the historic die-off of the trees, because the trees, I mean, we're having serious problems. It's not just the animals. The bees are dying. The trees are dying.
80% of the honeybees.
Yeah, and the redwoods are dying. But what happens is people get used to it. They think they believe that, you know, if it looks normal to them, then that's what's normal. And part of what I think what it is, Barry, is people cannot comprehend the level of depravity that has been experienced, because our little circle of our world, while we may be afraid, I mean, unless you're directly affected, and this is what was the amazing part, like here in Eugene, there was a huge protest on Sunday about the, quote, Muslim ban. Like, I'm driving around, there was like 1,000 people out there, and I'm like, what's that about? And they were like, oh yeah, it's the Muslim, like, really, in a little town of Eugene where we have very little immigration, people are taken to the streets saying what they're fighting about is they don't want what we've had to be taken away from us, because people are beginning to feel the threat, like you in Canada are beginning to feel the threat that you can't speak out publicly. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's same thing here. People are being afraid to speak out publicly. It's kind of like this general, as long as you keep the masses afraid, you stay in power. But once the masses feel their power, then you have to start negotiating with them.
Exactly. And, you know, like we said earlier, fear is the biggest weapon. But you know what? Fear gets alleviated when you get knowledge, and then you become active. And all of a sudden you do a simple little thing to empower yourself. And you realize that when people do become active, you can make changes. Like, it might sound corny, but just not going to Walmart, taking a little piece out of that cog every day of your life, shopping locally, supporting local, getting involved with farmers markets, buying your food, drying it for the winter. I do that. All my vegetables, I grow a lot myself, but I get a lot of my stuff at the farmers market, and I'll dry it and I consume it during the winter, so I'm not eating the pesticides that are in the store. There's so many things you can do. You can grow vegetables in your house. You can create energy producing systems in your house that get you a little bit off the grid. And every time you take a little piece out of that puzzle, it doesn't sound significant, but what happens when 10 million people start doing that, or 20 million people start doing that, or 100 million people all of a sudden become aware that that's a mechanism we can use? I get back to that movie Vax. Well, to me, that's just another tool in my toolbox, but it's one of the most powerful tools I've ever seen in my life. We get these tools, we put them all together, and what happens when people all of a sudden realize there's corruption in that facet of government, and they start doing a little bit of research themselves, and they find out it's tied to the FDA, that they're supported by Big Pharma, that these guys sit on that council, that guy sits on this council. It's a game of revolving chairs. They start understanding that this is absolute genocide on the human race. And it's just one aspect of what's happening, and it sends them off in a journey of discovery because they get pissed. Anybody that watches this kind of stuff and really becomes aware, you have to become pissed. So use your weapons, get little tools, put them in your toolbox, and every time you get a chance to talk to one of your fellow men, smile at them and have a conversation. And believe it or not, the door will open to add a thought. And once you've got their attention, boom, away you go. I see it happening all the time now, Lonnie. I do, especially in my little community. So that's the way, it might sound corny to people, but really it is a way we can fight back. And that's where it's going to have to start, is grassroots movements, people really starting to become aware and getting together as communities, as groups of people, which we don't do right now. We're so separated. We got to get over those stigmas.
I agree with you, Barry. I liken us to like a tsunami where the tide is still coming in. You know what I mean? We haven't reached our peak yet. We're still going in.
The wave is growing, Lonnie.
when it comes in and it collapses, it's going to go boom, and the whole thing. And the interesting thing is we're all so interconnected. Like, we have this magnificent grid. Like, you're far away, we can all connect through these electrical things and all this stuff that we didn't have 100 years ago. If we went back to like not being able to communicate, I venture to say that people would still find a way to communicate because we're used to it. It's part of who we actually are now. We would not go back to how we were before. And part of, their whole thing is about controlling us. That's really the issue, is making us feel so insignificant that we don't matter. They rely on us feeling like we don't matter. That's what keeps them in power. And that's what the White House telling us, oh, you can't leave a message here. That's kind of telling us, connect with us. Honestly, I still have not gotten over it. That just galls me. Like, call us on Facebook, send us a message on Facebook. Really? I mean, it's beyond comprehension that they have decided that they are going to be I don't know how they in their brains to think that's normal. Like that's the decorum. I mean, they're doing everything they can to destroy this government. They're gutting all of the major industries. They're gutting the New Deal. They're gutting everything that modern America is about. And now they're gutting the presidency. And even Steve Bannon being on the National Security Council, he's a journalist from Breitbart, learning our massive, imagine the secrets that this guy is going to learn. Imagine the information he's going to learn. It's just beyond comprehension, the level of incompetence that has infiltrated our country.
Mm-hmm. It boggles your mind. It really does. And it's hard to keep up with it. It really is.
The question is, how do we incite people? How do we incite? How do we get people to come together in an attitude of love and grace? And,
This might sound corny, but you know what? If there ever was a unifying faction in the world today, Lonnie, if we could make people aware of what is happening, we have all the political crap going on around us, and that's always going to go on. But what's actually happening to our planet right now, if we could make people fully aware of what we see unfolding for the Earth, I think you'd see a unifying cause that would unite people. We'd be able to get rid of our divisions in society. Divisions in society is a subject we could talk about for hours, Lonnie, and how it's been put into our world, how they've used it, and how society is so divided now. If we need a unifying faction in the world, I can't think of a better one, because we all love our children. When it comes down to it, we want to see our children have the same things that we had as we grew up. And right now, I don't see that for my children. And to me, that would be a very, very powerful tool in our weapon, in a little box of tools. I mean, we can talk about all the other things that are going on, GMOs, vaccines, chemtrailing, all this crap that's going on that's attacking us. But really, when it comes down to it, if we don't have a planet to live on in 15 or 20 or 25 years, like most of the scientists, some really, really strong scientists are screaming at the top of their lungs right now. And really, common sense would tell you that if we see what we see happening with the animals, the acceleration is continuing, then the future has to look bleak. It has to. I can't see a good future, but we can change it. We really can. But it's getting people to a point where they're going to say, hey, to hell with you guys that are selling us oils. We don't want it. We're going to clean renewable resources. We're going to start harnessing the sun. We're going to start harnessing all the avenues of free energy on this planet that are there right now for us to use, and we stop it all. And that sounds far-fetched, but honestly, if we don't do that, folks, somehow we're going to have to do that. Then I just don't see a really, really bright future for the planet, no matter what happens in our political arenas, whatever happens in the New World Order, all that other crap is going to be irrelevant if we don't have a planet to live on, period. That's the way I kind of see it.
Barry, I agree with you, and I actually think I am the eternal optimist. I do think that we will find it, and I do believe that, it's going to come to the point where most people on the planet are just going to say no to the system, and we're going to create ourselves up out of the ashes. But I do believe that they're going to have to eat their own arms off first. We're going to have, we haven't hit the apex of their destruction yet. So when we get to that point, we will pick ourselves back up. And this is why, like my intro, I say love is greater than fear, because really, if we walk in love, if we really just love each other, and forgiveness is a continual effort. We have to continue to forgive the people who offend us and let go of what we feel the offense is so that we can focus on the positive aspect. It's extremely important that we manifest forgiveness on a continual basis.
I agree with you 100%, Lonnie. It's just, to get people, we have to dwell a little bit in the dark to make people understand that we have to address these issues. But love is one of the most powerful weapons you can have. When you smile at people every day and say good day, that just knocks them right off their feet. I try and do that all the time. And if we all did that, and we could put aside our differences and we can start talking about issues that are very, very important, maybe we can get over the stigma that exists in society today.
Well, isn't that why that they create the hate? That's why, we find, at least in America, we find the factions of people who think Trump's a good guy. Most people hate him. To be honest, most people think that they're completely off his rocker. And I think a lot of people are beginning to get it. I think he's a chump. I think he's just being completely used. I think he is being set up so hard that he will, to save face, he will either back down himself. I don't think he's going to go quietly, but I think he's going to set himself up so that he can leave with grace. I think that's his whole thing, is to save face. And I don't think they're going to kill him because they don't want to make him a martyr. But I don't believe that he's going to be president in 1 year from now, frankly. I don't think that he'll still be around in a year. And we're going to have a much more militarized zone. And in the meantime, Americans really need to decide that we're going to gather together. And I think if this election has shown us one thing, that really, even the Obama administration showed us that really it's not left, right, it's not Republican, Democrat, it's the oligarchs, the 500 people that are running the planet, and the rest of us. That's really what it's coming out as. And people are becoming aware of it, that we're still in this phase of okay, now what do we do? And people haven't quite figured out what we need to do. And you and I are on these live radio air trying to, get people to think about how to do it, because we certainly don't have the answers off the top of our heads. And in fact, if we had the answers, we'd be stopped and probably be by the people who are so-called progressives. On alternative radio, we're sort of demeaned by the establishment media. We're considered the lunatic fringe, right? So
well, I guess we're lunatics then.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I have no problem. I have ripped apart a radio with my bare hands, so I guess that calls me. It doesn't matter. It sort of freaked me out at the time. So, hey, guess what, Barry? We are at 20 seconds left. You have been listening to Barry Prince. How can people find you, Barry? Why don't you tell people really quick?
Okay, well, I do a show on These Changing Times Radio tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I also co-host with Chuck Ocelli and the Ocelli Effect on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'm on Facebook. And
There we
you
go.
can reach me. There you can reach me.
Well, put your courage feet on, you guys. Thanks for joining us.